Hi everyone, this is Cheryl Ruck and I'm excited to be a part of Humans of Telecom.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal, Chief Growth Officer at Globe Teleservices. As you all know, this is an avenue where we uncover the human stories driving the ever-connected world. Join us as we delve into the lives of the leaders and innovators that are shaping the telecom industry today. From groundbreaking breakthroughs to personal challenges, this podcast explores the fascinating intersection of technology and humanity in the world of telecom. Get ready to be inspired by this diverse range of telecom folks who keep us connected, one captivating story at a time. And well, talking about telecom folks, our guest today has a full time job which rotates exactly around that. Through her painstaking efforts, she works towards bringing some of the most wonderful humans of telecom into this industry. I met her recently at ITW in the US, and her energy and exuberance caught my attention immediately. And I knew that a conversation with her would make a perfect podcast episode. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Cheryl Ruck, Associate Director at Expand Group. Cheryl, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you. Which part of the world do you belong to? And from where are you joining this podcast today?
Hi Anurag, what a lovely introduction. The feeling was mutual, so I'm really happy that we can reconnect here and hopefully reconnect in person again at a future event. So yeah, thank you so much. You are finding me just close to a city called Brighton, which is the south of the UK, south of London on the coast. It is not where I grew up. I grew up in Canterbury, which is famous for its Archbishop and Cathedral, and moved a couple of counties away to Sussex, and Brighton is where I now live with my husband.
Interesting. So, Cheryl, you are from UK, and even today you are joining us from UK. So, between the time of being born in that country and today, has life or career ever taken you outside of this country? And have you been working or living in any other part of the world? And overall, how has your journey been so far? How did you get into the world of telecom?
Sure. So I have only lived in the UK. I have just moved across a couple of counties, so nothing too extensive. My accent hasn't changed. It's only an hour and a half drive to go back home and see family. So no, unfortunately not. I did try to relocate to Canada a few years ago with my husband, but it didn't work out, unfortunately. But fortunately, it led me into the industry that I'm in now, which is a great segue for your latter part of that question. How did I end up in telecoms? So I was previously at a very well-known large recruitment company not doing telecoms. And I tried to relocate via that company to another office in Canada, and it didn't work out. As such, we decided to sort of part ways, and I found myself in Brighton looking for another recruitment job. And I stumbled across an advert from Expand, and I thought, wow, what a cool company. They're Brighton based. They look small. They look specialist. They look boutique. This is exactly what I'm looking for. It's the opposite of what I had experienced in my previous job. So I got in touch with them. And the rest is history. That was nearly 7 years ago. And here I am now as the associate director.
Wonderful. So, thanks to that incident wherein you were on the lookout and you bumped into Expand Group, that gave our telecom industry a chance to host Cheryl Ruck. So, thanks to that, it's wonderful that you are now one of us. And not only that, you're bringing in so many other wonderful individuals into this industry as well. So, how has the entire journey of recruitment been for you? And overall, if I ask, if there have been one or two major memorable or impactful moments in your career, what would they be?
Yeah, I mean, journey is an apt word. It is a roller coaster of a journey, extreme highs, extreme lows. When you're dealing with people, there's so many factors that you have to take into consideration. So it's a really interesting journey. And I think the expand journey has been particularly relevant because I started my recruitment life at Expand as a delivery consultant, which essentially is entry level, and have climbed my way up into now management position. And my goodness, there have been times where I have been, the lowest of lows. Everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong in one week. And then suddenly the next week, everything that could have gone right has gone right. And it's an interesting feeling because it's kind of an addictive one. And when you're dealing with people, you see, and when they're making such big career decisions and they're trusting that with you, it's incredibly, it feels such an honor to be part of that journey. So it's something that I take really seriously, but also have such an affection for, and really enjoy doing because it's so fulfilling for me. And then in terms of an event, I'm thinking about this, and I think the pandemic, and it's been something that's raised before on your podcast. I noticed a couple of people have mentioned it. The pandemic for me, for telecoms, was very, very impactful. And, the telecoms industry had a light shone on it. We really kind of thrived in that really tough environment. I was really fortunate to work for a company where that is my industry. So I was able to really focus on my career, really work hard in a time that was incredibly difficult to navigate. I was living at the time with my husband and with our best friend, both who are working for the NHS. My friend that I was living with is a doctor. He was going in every day into hospitals in the midst of the pandemic, not knowing what his day was going to look like. My husband was redeployed. He's a physio into a hospital ward. Again, we had no idea what day-to-day looked like. So to be able to focus on work, on my clients, on my candidates, and keep things moving was, it probably kept me sane. And as a result of that, I was able to save a lot. We didn't go anywhere. I was able to focus and really work hard. And as a result of that, a couple of years later, my husband and I purchased the house of our dreams, which is where I'm speaking to you from. So it's a weird time to think about because there's a lot of joy in that time, in and amongst the sadness. But the pandemic for me was a profound moment in my career, I would say, personally and professionally.
I can totally relate to that. I mean, for everyone, I think in some or the other way, it was
Yeah.
impactful. And I think it left a bittersweet feeling, maybe in a lot more cases, more bitter than sweet, I guess. But it did leave that bittersweet after effect. And I'm hoping now, God willing, it's an after effect only now.
Yes.
But yeah, I can totally understand that. But wonderful, congratulations that you've got the house of your dreams. So
Thank you.
it's good to see that you're in a place where you're well settled.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on, Cheryl, our next question. We move actually to our second section, which is the human side. And here we'd like to understand a lot more about Cheryl as a person. So first and foremost, Cheryl, I don't know how many people in the industry interact with you on a regular basis. I, for one, I know I've not done much. But if the listeners of this podcast would like to know one shocking thing about Cheryl, which they don't know about, what would that be?
Okay, this answer is immediate. I am a huge Taylor Swift fan. Huge. I adore her. I'm not even embarrassed about saying it. I know all of her songs. My husband knows all of her songs because I know all of her songs. And I'm thrilled to be seeing her next year for the first time. So probably not something people would expect, but I'm shouting it loud and proud. I love Taylor.
Well, I'm not so much into Taylor Swift, so I still don't know what's so shocking if you are a big fan. But I know for a fact that she's an amazing human being. I was just reading about her the other day, and I came to know how much money she's donated to so many people who work for her. And she's also had her own struggles and challenges, and she's always risen above them like a phoenix. So it's wonderful to see that you're fond of her, and I'm hoping that beyond her music, I'm hoping even her life is a form of inspiration for you.
Absolutely. And I think to put it into context, the first concert I ever went to when I was 9 with my mum was Meatloaf. And I'm also a massive Foo Fighters fan. So people think it's slightly funny transitioning from, rock and that sort of music into something very poppy. So, yes, just quite an eclectic mix of music taste and a real admiration for the people as well, like you said.
Wonderful. All right, so we know for sure that music is something which you're fond of, but over and above that, if we ask that, what are some things, or at least what is one thing that Cheryl does to recharge herself? What are your passions? Would you have something over and above music as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We are so blessed, my husband and I, and Expand Group, that we are based on the coast. We have the beach very close by. So when I feel like I need to unwind, generally I will take a walk along the seafront, and it's a route that's frequented by a lot of dog walkers, and I'm a huge animal lover. So if I can manage to stroke someone's dog, even better. It just kind of fills me with pure joy. So I think you can't beat the sea, especially in the sunshine, even when it's windy and cold. There's something so intriguing about it and majestic. So and actually, in lockdown, I did post a video on LinkedIn of me running. My one attempt of exercising in lockdown was running along the seafront, which people still talk to me about even now. So I think, other people get joy from it too, which is awesome.
Wonderful. That's amazing. All right, so now we move over to two games that we play with our guests. So, in the first one, I'm gonna put up 5 words towards you. And Cheryl, we'd love to know the first thought that comes to your mind. And as I always tell my guests, be original, be spontaneous, be human. Would love to hear the first thought. So, are you ready for these?
I am ready. Let's go.
Wonderful. All right, so the first word is the industry we are in, telecom.
So I would say buzz. And buzz for me is the buzz of events, the buzz of new technology, the buzz of trying to learn how things work, and the buzz of finding people, moving them within this space. So yeah, buzz.
All right. The second one is motivation.
Yeah, motivation for me really centers around relationships, I would say, personally, professionally, forming them, maintaining them. Yeah, motivation.
All right. And I can totally get that. I think relationships is what we all exist for eventually, right? Whether personal or professional.
Exactly.
All right. So the third one important relationship, family.
So family, I would say diverse, the first word. Not necessarily in terms of our history, but in terms of the personalities. My mum recently came back from living in China for 10 years. My dad runs his own business with my stepmom. So we have a lot of diverse personalities and skill sets and stories within our family, which is fun.
Interesting. And just out of curiosity, what took your mother to China?
Yeah, good question. So, she and my dad actually both worked for BT. It's not how they met, and it's funny now that I'm in the telecoms industry. But she got made redundant, and she at aged 50, and she decided just to completely change the direction of her life. And she always loved kind of being around kids. She was a swimming teacher as well, so she decided she wanted to try something new, relocated to China and taught children out there for 10 years, and has just come back now.
Cheryl, I think this makes a very strong case for getting your mother on the podcast as well. She is also a human of telecom, so she
Yeah.
totally fits the bill. And I'm sure she'll have many exciting stories to share.
Oh, she would. You'd run out of time, I think.
Wonderful. All right, moving on. The next word is career.
Yeah, kind of brings me back to roller coaster. And that portrays so many words: excitement, highs, lows. But I think excitement probably takes precedent. Excitement of things that have happened and things to come.
All right. And the final word where we are today, podcast.
New, something new for me. Um, something this is my first one, similar to Sarah, actually, when you spoke to Sarah. So I was mixed emotions of petrified, didn't know what to expect, but really thrilled to be on it and actually see such value in listening to other people share their stories with you. So I think you're doing an amazing job with it. So new, exciting venture.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So with that, we wrap up the first game, and it's been one fun ride, as you said, a roller coaster, right,
Yeah.
of answers. All right, so we move on to the second game, and I'm hoping this is even more exciting. So here I ask the guest to come up with three statements. Two of them have to be truths, one of them has to be a lie. The expectation is each of those statements are so exotic and so amazing that one would like to believe all three are either truths or all three are actually lies. But we are hoping two of them are truths and one of them is a lie, and I'll try and guess the lie. So, would you have three statements for us today?
I have three statements prepared. Statement number one: I am married to a former national champion in an Olympic sport.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Statement two: I used to work in a zoo next to the elephant enclosure.
Okay.
Statement three: my dad traced our family tree back and we are very distantly descended from royalty. There you go.
Well, I think all these three statements are pretty exotic and interesting. And so I have a strong feeling that the first one is correct about your husband and his tryst with the Olympics. I have a strong feeling, you do exude that blue blood exuberance. So
Oh.
I'm guessing that that one is also true. And I have a feeling that you did work in the zoo, but you were next to a tiger and not an elephant. So I'm going to hazard a guess and say that the second one is a lie, and the first and the third one are truths. So am I right?
You are incorrect.
Uh,
I am married to an ex-national champion. I did work in a zoo next to the elephant enclosure. I am sadly not descended from royalty. There is no blue blood in me, I'm afraid. But thank you for the compliment. I'll take it.
well, you never know. You might just be the first one in the lineage to start something royal. So there you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who knows?
All right, that was interesting. So, good choice of three statements, I must say.
Thank
And
you.
how was the experience of working in a zoo? I mean,
Oh.
if you can tell in a minute that how that entire feeling was. I mean, I know we all look forward to going to the zoo, but working in a zoo is another animal in itself. So, how was that experience?
It was so surreal. It was one that I did when I was 16. When I lived back home, we had a zoo that was relatively close by. I worked in the catering department, so the pizzeria was next to the elephants, and that was my favourite place to be. It was surreal starting your day, and your commute to where you were for the day was through the monkey enclosure next to the elephants. It was wonderful. I absolutely loved it, and not many people can say that they had that as an experience.
That I can totally agree. I mean, getting a chance to work in a zoo, or I think, there are a couple of professions, at least from far, definitely, they look very exciting. I think one of them would be working in a zoo. I think
Hmm.
another one would be working in a circus. I
Mm.
think these are some experiences which seem a little too outwardly and something which, one can't even seem to process that
Yes,
how would the entire experience be. So
I agree. And I'm not very flexible at all. So the zoo was the closest thing I'd probably get to a circus.
wonderful. And now the last question of this section, Cheryl. So I'm not sure whether you're into reading or watching movies, but if you would be, then would you have a favorite book or a movie and some favorite character that you can share with us today?
I am not so much into reading. My attention span is poor at the best of times. However, film-wise, Moulin Rouge, which was directed by Baz Luhrmann with Nicole Kidman, Ewan McGregor, it just blew my breath away. It's something I watched in the cinema when it was out when I was a teenager. And I'm not a musical fan, but the songs in it are stunning. And I've been lucky enough to go to the London show of it twice, which just blew my mind even more. So Moulin Rouge, the character of Satine in that film is just, it's just so beautiful. So that's my answer.
Wonderful. I must say, an excellent choice of a movie and the character, and I can totally relate to that. And maybe, it would suit you also, maybe you can take your chance and take that character as well in some shape and form.
I mean, I did have a themed 30th birthday party, so I've kind of ticked the box, but yes, I've tried.
Oh, that's wonderful. Interesting. All right. Okay, so Cheryl, it's been a very interesting conversation so far, but we have very soon zoomed into our last section, which is the sign off section. So, two quick questions here. Firstly, if somebody wants to meet Cheryl, especially so many humans of telecom are listening to this podcast, and I think you completely embody the sentiment out here because you are dealing with humans of telecom day in and day out. So, if anybody wants to reach out to Cheryl, what's the best way? And are there some events or conferences which you're attending in the next couple of weeks and months? Which would they be?
Yeah, sure. I mean, always happy to talk to people, no matter, what their motivation is. I love people and their experiences and just kind of seeing how they're doing. So you can reach me on email, on LinkedIn. My details are on LinkedIn or on the Expand Group website. Alternatively, I will be at Capacity Europe in October in London. It's the next big event on the calendar for us. So I'm hoping to see a lot of people there, a lot of familiar faces and new faces, I hope.
Absolutely. And our final question, our signature question, what does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
Yeah, what a final question, my word. And it's funny that you should ask that because I placed a candidate a number of years ago and we went to dinner to celebrate and he asked me the exact same question. And at the time, I'll give you the same answer that I gave him. It was around lightness, kind of joy. I don't take myself too seriously. I want people to feel comfortable and just uplifting others, making sure that others can be happy, or if they're in pain, supporting them. So I think it's just the lightness and joy and experiencing all the emotions, but doing it with a smile on your face and laughing when things go horrifically wrong sometimes.
Yeah, I guess that's how one should eventually look at life, right? I mean, keep smiling. And as they say, that don't let the world upset the curve of your face, which is your smile. Rather, let the curve of your face bring the change in the world. So I guess that makes so much sense in what you just said.
What a lovely expression. I've never heard that before. So yes, I think that perfectly reflects the sentiment I was hoping to achieve with my answer.
Wonderful. So I'm glad I could summarize your sentiment in some shape and form as well.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So, Cheryl, once again, thank you so much. It was a very interesting conversation. And as always, the intent of this podcast is to bring the human side of some of the wonderful people within this industry. And in spite of barely knowing you and just having had one encounter with you, it's interesting that there is so much more I could learn about you today. And so have so many listeners learned about you. And I do hope through this podcast, you've been able to convey your message across. And I do hope many people reach out to you. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Anurag. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in person again. Hopefully not too long.
Absolutely, I hope so too. So, thanks a lot, and wishing you all the very best. And to all our wonderful listeners here, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a good glimpse of the human side of Cheryl Ruck, a person who chanced into the world of telecom but is now thankfully loving her work. And that work involves bringing so many wonderful humans of telecom into the industry. Having had the chance of working in a zoo, and also the other end of the spectrum, giving the royal exuberance, and maybe she's the one who'll start the royalty line starting from her. And finally, somebody with a lightness and joy, bringing a smile upon herself and those who get to interact with her. That for us is Cheryl Ruck. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, do stay tuned in. As always, we shall soon be releasing yet another episode and another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, This is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.